Middle East for Israel and Hamas. Another day of mourning and sorrow for heartbroken families. An Israeli soldier killed in Gaza was laid to rest. At least 43 Israeli soldiers have been killed in the increasingly bloody conflict. In Gaza, some neighborhoods have been reduced to rubble. Families search for missing loved ones among the piles of demolished debris. Fresh controversy is raging over what happened at a United Nations-run school in northern Gaza on Thursday. Israel is rejecting blame for any deaths at the school, saying it fired one errant mortar that hit an empty courtyard. Hamas says 16 people were killed and hundreds wounded in a deliberate attack. Correspondent Sarah Seidner is in Jerusalem, and she has the very latest on Israel's video and the school controversy. Sarah?
Don, the Israeli military, I had a phone call with journalists. I was on that phone call, and they explained the inquiry into that UN school that was hit, where Palestinians say 16 people were killed and more than 200 others were injured, including children, women, and men. The Israel spokesperson for the IDF said that Israel indeed accidentally fired a mortar that landed into the school's inner courtyard. That courtyard, however, Israel said, was empty at the time, and Israel says they did not kill anyone with that attack. However, they said there may have been some injuries. Now, we were able to put a question because there are a lot of questions about this. If you look at the video that Israel released to the media, it is very low resolution. It is from very high above Beit Hanun, which is the particular neighborhood where this UN-run school exists. And then you see on your top right corner where the mortar hit. You can see that puff of what looks like smoke, but indeed it's dirt from the impact going up. We cannot see into the shadows. It is very difficult to see any real detail, if there were any people in there. So a lot of questions from the video that has been released. We put one of those questions to Israel's Prime Minister's spokesperson, Mark Regev.
What happened in the school was a tragedy. Innocent people were killed. The pictures are terrible, and no human being cannot be moved. The question is who is responsible. And that we have to look in very seriously and judiciously. And we have to make sure that we get to the truth. It's not clear that this tragedy was a result of IDF ordinance. What we can say, though, is that by turning the school into a war zone, the Palestinian terrorists, Hamas, were in fact deliberately endangering everyone there.
UNRWA, which is the UN agency that runs the school, says they want a full and transparent investigation into what happened. Now, we have not heard from Hamas. Don?
Sarah Seidner. Sarah, thank you very much. And as I reported this just into CNN, less than 2 hours, the United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting on the Mideast crisis. I want to bring in now senior United Nations correspondent Richard Roth on the phone. Richard, what is the Council expecting to accomplish this evening?
This is going to be a statement. What's significant is that all 15 countries have agreed to it. That's not always possible when it comes to the Middle East, but clearly the school attack, the UN school in Gaza, has galvanized the Council into action. The statement that really refers to the school attack, the Security Council will emphasize that civilian and humanitarian facilities, including those of the UN, quote, must be respected and protected, and called on all parties to act consistently with this principle. The Council's statement begins by saying the Council is expressing its, quote, grave concern regarding the deterioration in the situation as a result of the crisis related to Gaza and the loss of civilian lives and casualties. And the other language, of course, wants an agreement, some type of halt in this fighting, and praise the efforts of all diplomats, including specifically John Kerry by name. Don.
So then, listen, we're sitting here on a Sunday night at midnight. The significance of this, you're saying that, listen, anything that's under the jurisdiction of the UN, that must be respected. But at a midnight, midnight on a Sunday night or into Monday morning, how unusual and how significant is this, Richard?
Well, it is unusual. It wouldn't be the first Middle East meeting at an odd hour, but the Palestinians have been pushing for a resolution that the U.S. and others, I think they were just waiting to see if the diplomats, like Traveling Secretary Kerry and all of these ceasefires, if that would bear fruit. And once the weekend has come and gone with no sign of agreement, I think the Council felt it had to act, even if there's no independent findings yet of exactly who attacked that UNRWA UN school.
Okay. So you mentioned that all 15 nations have agreed here. Who might we hear from?
that one diplomat said it's not been decided if there will be speeches. If they just say at midnight, let's just do this important statement, it'll be read by the current president of the council, the ambassador from Rwanda. But with tensions and passions running high, there's always a chance there might be speeches. But it's hard to believe at midnight it would be another back and forth between the Palestinians and the Israelis, but I wouldn't rule it out.
All right, thank you. Richard Roth, if you get more, we'll get you back on. Let us know. Thank you very much. I want to bring in now our panel, senior military analyst, Lieutenant Colonel Rick Francona, and former CIA operative Bob Baer. Colonel Francona, first to you. Let's talk about this UN Security Council meeting. Here's the email that we have gotten from the Security Council. It simply says the President of the Security Council wishes to inform its members of the councils that it will have a public meeting in connection with the agenda item, the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question, will be convened tonight, midnight. What's going on here?
Well, there's been no resolution. The Secretary Kerry's not been able to get these two to the table. The Egyptians not been able to get them to the table. I think the UN feels they have to do something, but these two sides are so far apart. They're talking past each other. What the Israelis demand, the Palestinians can't give. What the Palestinians demand, the Israelis can't give. So maybe the UN can do something, but I'm skeptical.
I was going to ask Bob, I mean, what can the UN really do? Can they do anything except for a strongly worded note? And I'm not trying to be facetious here.
You know, Don, that's about the most we're going to get out of this. You know, Hamas is determined. It went into this war intending to fight it to the end, and it's not done. The more casualties it can inflict on Israel, the more likely it'll get something out of it, and it will reestablish its political position. This didn't happen accidentally. So I don't see any factors that would suggest anybody's ready to sit down and start talking seriously.
Okay, Bob, while I have you up here, this video from Israel's military, does it change your perception of what may have happened at that Gaza school?
You know, we simply won't know, Don. You know, did somebody at that position fire it on purpose? An Israeli mortar position certainly could drop one in, or is it an errant missile? You know, it's very easy for one of these, you know, the earth to collapse on one side, the missile goes off course. We simply don't know, and I doubt in the middle of a conflict we're going to get, you know, a good investigation out of Israel, but so we just have to take their word for it. But the point is, I think if the UN says people have died there, children amongst them, it's probably true.
Rick?
Yeah, I agree. We saw the blast there. We don't know what happened outside of what we could see. There were people obviously killed there. It wouldn't surprise me, and we've talked about this over and over. This is such a densely populated area. When you're dropping that kind of munitions into this area, there are going to be civilian casualties. There is just no way to get around it.
All right. Thank you both.